And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Alkione, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the Red Zerg representing CranKy Gaming. It is Dark. And in the top right, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss representing Twisted Minds. It is Classic. Here we go. We're nearing the end of the broadcast here. We've reached the semifinals of the Korean StarCraft League, week number 40. To reiterate, this is the final KSL, the final Korean StarCraft League of the year of 2023. And it's been a wild year at that. It's been, I can't believe, 40 editions of this tournament. Not just 40 weeks of KSL, but we also had the Korean Summer Slam, the KSL Summer Slam, a couple of months ago. So it's been really cool to see both Chickenman and Dave Testa have the initiative, to create this event, to create the Patreon, and a big shout out to all the people as well that do support the KSL, !KSL in the chat, and you will get a link to the Patreon page to support this tournament yourself, to help grow the tournament and to keep it running. You also gain some benefits. The main things are replay packs. I believe there are also some other side benefits as well, like if you want to cast the event, you can. I think there's like a tier for that. Some other things that you can kind of look for, or again, just knowing that you're helping to support the Korean scene. It's good. Feels good. Feels good, Schmappy. So the Patreon is available if you want to, again, go that extra step and support the KSL. Otherwise, we're settling into this. So far, Hatch Gas Pool standard opener out of Dark. Likewise, a Gate Expand into a Cybercore out of Classic. Everything is looking normal for the time being, which is what we expect to see. Classic, though, is a very aggressive Protoss player. As opposed to Firefly, who is playing more reactive and trying to get into the mid-game, Classic is going to be working towards the mid-game as well, but in a different way. Classic has become very fond of going for a Stargate opener into Void Rays or Phoenixes. I'm not saying he will do that every game, but at least once in this best of 3, we should be seeing that kind of variation. There it is, Stargate is in production. A little bit further back. And is rallied to the natural. So I'm assuming this is going to be a Void Ray, but we'll see. We shall see. The reason why Classic is so fond of that kind of opener is because it does lead into hidden tech. You can go for a Glaive at Eps, you can go for Sky Toss, you can go for a Charge all in. There's a lot on the table here for Classic that he can kind of spread his wings and really just thrive in. So now the Adept is going to be getting across the map, just trying to get a read of what's going on. Third base has been taken. Dark going for the linear third. And Classic is going to scout and confirm that. Just check that third base. Meanwhile, there it is. Not going to be a Void Ray, but a Phoenix. Same kind of end goal here. The goal here is to shut down the Overlord, keep Dark in the dark, keep him guessing as to what the Protoss is doing next, and this could go into a couple of different directions. On top of that, the Phoenix can also support the Oracles. Phoenixes, they can lift Queens, which will take away a lot of the DPS that they have to defend against Oracle Harass, and Classic, he makes some magic happen. He can gain some value, definitely, over this opener. As the Overlord is going to be shut down. This should be leading to a third base, but again, what I'm really curious about is what is thrown down after the third. Whether we go for a singular Twilight Council with gateways, if we go Twilight Council with a Forge, if we go Robo Forge instead, or even second Stargate into a Fleet Beacon. There are all these different tech paths that Classic can kind of pick between. For now, third is being taken, which is what we should be doing. Is in line of all those options. And there it is. We have gateways and a Twilight Council, no Forge. This is looking like Glaive Eps. Okay, the lack of Forge is a big tell. The other option that this could be, especially if we had a Robo alongside this, would be Charge for a charge-based all-in, which we have seen Classic do before. But for the time being, this screams Glaive Eps. As Dark is going to be zoning back those Oracles. Zoning back that Phoenix. Behind this, Roach Warren's on the way. We're going for, oh my god, we're going for a fast lair into Overlord speed. This is going to get rowdy. This is going to get really weird. So, as I mentioned, again, no Forge, so Glaive Eps makes plenty of sense. That's what we assumed Classic would be going for. But he's going into an all-in. As the Oracles dive into that mineral line, they do get eyes on the fast lair. One Oracle goes down. We get four drone kills, and we get a fifth. We get a sixth. Almost get a sixth. But Dark, he's going for a German taxi. He's going for Overlord speed, fast lair. Drop Lord's going to be on the way. Dark is going all in. So he's going all in against an aggressive opener. But Glaive Adepts, they don't trade well against Queens and Roaches. So this is going to be a really interesting dynamic. I think I want to favor Dark. I think. I mean, the Adepts are going to do beautifully against the Lings. So Dark has to be very careful. Does get eyes on the Adepts. Losing a handful of those Lings. Yeah, there we go. Dark, he was just in the middle of pushing out, and he unloads. He unloads the Queens. He's taking a defensive position. Now, what Dark can do in this position is he can clean up these Adepts, he can defend, and then immediately counterattack. It all depends, though, on what he has left over after the initial defense, and whether or not he can hold. But now Adept's going to be threatening a Shade. They do get on top of the Ravagers. Ravagers almost go down. We do commit. We Shade into the natural. And we lock down some of these Adepts. Files is going to be grazing the army. 15 drones go down. Oh my god, the Adepts, they go ham in the mineral line. They kill every single worker. Dark did not pull away. He lost far too much. And now we're shading into the main base, and we're getting out of hand. We're getting out of control. Files will connect. But we've already killed 24 workers, and this is game-ending damage. Even if Dark goes for a counter all-in, he doesn't have enough. He doesn't have enough to really sustain this. Classic going to be recalling back home. He has crippled the economy. He's just eliminated the economy here of Dark. And now all Classic has to do is defend. What do we have? 2 shield batteries on the way, and Immortal. Oh, the Overlord! The Drop Lord has to get out of here. Does pull back. What do we have? Sentries and Immortal. Again, not the best army to fight against Roaches, but there aren't that many Roaches. There aren't any Roaches, actually. A handful of Ravagers and Lings. And against Adepts, Classic, he can deal with this. He can engage. There we go. Force fields are thrown down. The Lings get trapped. A good chunk of Lings go down. The Queens, they get dropped into the natural base. They're going to be getting quite a lot of damage done. It looks like the Immortal's going to go down. No shield battery. We have shield batteries at the third base, but no shield batteries at the natural. Biles will connect. And Dark, oh my god. Biles connecting once again. And Dark is completely all in with this, and he's breaking through. He is breaking through. He gets on top of the shield battery, piles it down. Adepts have been cleaned up. We have a handful of Immortals, that's true, but only a handful. The Biles, once again, they take down the Sentry. Now, boys are being pulled. And it looks like Dark, does he have too much? The Queens are getting picked off. Adepts are coming in to reinforce. Remember, Classic has more than double the worker count. He can afford to lose probes. Time is on Classic's side. He's diving on those Ravagers. They're coming from behind. They're going for the Immortal. Oh, but they will not be able to get it. Yeah, plenty of Adepts are in position. They clean up the Lings. And it looks like Classic has held. It was a tight hold. He lost 14 probes in the process. But he does shut this down. Again, Lings can't really touch this. The Adepts, they just counter them so hard. GG gets called, and Classic will take game number 1. Whew. GG. GG, well played. Again, a really awkward game from Dark. He was going for his own all-in. He was going for his own aggression. And then as soon as he saw what was happening, he had to pull back. He had to, again, turn around and take a more defensive position instead. The first Shade was brutal. Remember, the first Adept Shade into the natural killed 15 drones. Like, already that first Shade had done more than enough. And from there, I think we went up to 23 drone kills. It was crazy. As well as trading with all the Lings. Just Dark didn't take the initial Shade seriously enough. He turned around, he had to fight with the drones, and that's how they all died. And with that, Classic just needs one more game. Uno más. One more game here to advance on to the grand finals to win it all. And we're loading into another small map. We're loading into a smaller map. We're loading into Hard Lead. Now, because we're loading into Hard Lead, I'm sure Dark is going to be tempted to go for it all-in again. To go for either a Queen Walk or Drop a Lords. It's very tempting on Hard Lead. Likewise, though, as we saw, Classic is a very aggressive Protoss player himself. As we saw in the previous game, just rushing into Glaive Adepts can be quite powerful against Ling-based all-ins. So this is not cut and dry. We'll see. We'll see how Dark adapts. We'll see how he responds. spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Hardlead, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the red Zerg representing CranKy Z Gaming. It is Dark. And spawning in the top left hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss player, the blue Protoss representing Twisted Minds. It is Classic. One more game is all he needs. Uno más, papi, uno más, to advance on to the grand finals. And a lot of this is gonna come down to the builds. A lot of this will come down to the builds of choice and what both players blindly go into. Boy. Assuming that Classic goes for another Stargate into like Void Ray or Phoenix. Assuming. But now Oracle Probe is gonna be just checking the bases, getting a read on the opener of Dark. It is just going to be a hatch gas pull. It is very important to take note of this because Dark is not afraid to 12 pull and not afraid to proxy hatch in ZVP. We've seen it plenty of times. So Classic, he is on notice. We've seen Dark kill Classic plenty of times as well with proxy hatches. So Dark would just be making sure he has a read on what is going on. We can just get in towards the early to mid game. We can ease into it. Overlord's coming in for a scout, confirming the gate expands. Everything is looking as it should. And as we load into Hardlead, I did mention before, Hardlead has a very short rush distance by ground. So because of that, I mentioned before, it is very tempting to go all in. We saw it from Dark against Firefly. And we could see it again. I say could though, very tentatively, just because Dark did kind of fail in all in that last game. So he may be, especially because he's down in this series and because it's a best of 3, Dark may just feel like he can't really take any risks anymore and he may have to go for a standard, more macro game. We'll see what his mindset is and how he approaches game 2. Whether he is afraid and he is going to be a little bit more timid in his approach, or if he just doubles down and just goes all in anyway. It's possible. It is very possible. Dark has no fear. As Classic is going for a Stargate opener. Everything's looking normal. Lings, they do slip into the natural base, though. We're going for a probe kill, which you get surrounded. Good control there at a Classic. Just shut down the Lings. Once again, Phoenix first. Once again, a Classic is going to be shutting down this Overlord, and he's going to be keeping Dark in the dark. Now, just because the opener, as we do shade into the main, we get 2 drone kills. Good damage here from Classic. But just because we're going for a Phoenix first doesn't mean it has to be Glaive Adepts. Again, we're going to be keeping an eye on the tech of choice. It could be Gateways and a Twilight Council, which is Glaive Adepts again. It could be a Forge and a Twilight Council. It could be Robo Forge. Could be Second Stargate. Could be Fleet Beacon. Classic is very much so a player that mixes it up and does vary his play quite a lot, especially in ZVP. Is going to be hunted down. Additional Queen production well underway here for Dark. Just droning up, saturating his bases. Third base is on the way. Everything is looking as it should. And soon we're going to be seeing our tech of choice. Soon we will see our follow-up from Classic. Oracle's getting across the map. Dark going for an Evo first. Curious. This is looking like +1 melee. Very curious out of Dark. Very bold, actually. I have things to say about that as we do go into the third base. Getting a bit of damage done here on the Phoenixes. Oh my god, taking a lot of hits. Do have to back off. Do have to respect the Queens. Meanwhile, show us our tech. Third base is getting up and running. There's that +1 melee. So, I think that Dark plans on going Ling Hydra. I'm assuming he wants to go Ling Hydra here, and the reasoning for this, Ling Hydra is hard countered by Glaive Adepts, but because Glaive Adepts were used in game 1, I think Dark is hoping and assuming that we don't see Glaive Adepts here in game number 2, and he can get away with going into, +1 melee Lings into Fast Hive, essentially. which Glaive Adepts would just completely, again, hard counter. And as we can see, that's going to be a Twilight Council and a Forge. This is not Glaives. This should be either Blink or Charge. A bit of a Gateway Explosion. I'm leaning towards Charge a little bit more, but we'll see. So our tech of choice is going to be chosen. There's that Baneliness on the way. Again, we are skipping Roaches. There's Charge in production. Because of all these gateways, it looks like Classic does intend on being a little bit more aggressive here with this. We're going to be hitting a timing with +1, Charge, and Archons. Temple Archives will soon be on the way. There it is, now in production. So this is going to be a pretty powerful push here. And Dark is going to be so heavily reliant on this. He does kill an Oracle. Dark is going to be so heavily reliant on Banelings. Without Roaches, this is still going to be a tough game for Dark. So this playstyle out of Dark is ideal against Blink Stalkers. That's what he was hoping for. That's what he was banking on, is for Classic to go into Blink. But it's Charge instead. Stage Trap going to be going up. Good reaction. One drone gets caught out. And here we go, Dark. Trying to be as assertive as he can with the Link Bane. That's a lot of Banelings on the way. 8 Banelings. Links are flooding across the map. We're looking for Surround. We need shield batteries. Where are they? No shield batteries at the third, which means Dark, he can collapse on this army. Classic in a bit of trouble. Shield battery just now starts. Banelings are welling in. Good force fields. Very nice force fields. Zoning away those Banelings. Lings, they try to dive into the mineral line as well. Banelings are welling in, but once again, the force fields up. But they will get in. Just barely. They connect with the sentries. They don't get into the mineral line, but the Lings, they can deal with everything else. They're trying to, at least. The Oracle does race back home. And Classic holds. That was a tight hold, but again, the MVP force fields kept every single one, or most of these workers alive. Only 2 probes went down, and Dark isn't done. He's doubling down. And now we have a Roach Warren. A very delayed Roach Warren from Dark, but he realized what's going on. Gets on top of the army. +1 melee kicking in. And the Lings, they annihilate the army. Archon a little bit too late. Shield battery not done. And Bailey's are waddling in as well to clean up the mineral line. Dark, he has a broken Classic. Oh my god, the connections. As we do connect with the probes, we take down 12 of them and we're not done. We have Immortals on the way, but what are Immortals going to do against Lings? Ay. Nothing, Clacky. So yeah, we clean up every single probe here. 16 workers go down. That's an entire mineral line. We go straight for the Immortals as well. And Dark, he's just not stopping. He's just rallying everything across the map. He breaks through the Immortals again. Immortals, they are not ideal at all against Lings. They can barely deal with them. And there's still no shield battery, still no overcharge. And Dark, he's still just rallying across the map, by the way. The Link Flood doesn't stop. It doesn't end. Finally, we force this back. But Dark Trade is so efficient. That was 114 Lings, by the way. Oh my god. 114 Lings, but he was able to deal enough damage, able to cripple this third. Behind this, he's transitioning into Lingbane Roach Ravager. He has map control, and Classic is stuck at home. Remember, Classic, he wanted to hit a timing with his own +1, but now he can't. Now he doesn't have an army to really move out. So because he's stuck at home, Dark can drone. Dark, he has the freedom to saturate his bases, take another hatchery, tech up, work on upgrades. Dark can do whatever he wants at this point. And again, just pivoting away from this into Roaches is going to be ideal for him. Roach speed on the way. Lings clearing up all these rocks. Like, by the time Classic can push out, Dark should be up to, what, 75 workers and with a Roach army as well. Classic will have Storm, and to be fair, Classic is building up a death bowl of an army, like Immortals, Archons, High Templar. Like, this army is eventually going to be terrifying, but it's going to take a while to get there. Oh. So we got 6 probes here at the third. Oh no! Big connection towards the end. Yeah, one more Baneling is going to be all it takes to finish up those probes, to finish up that mineral line. Behind this Dark, he's been able to drone up to 73. He hasn't droned up to 80 yet because he wants to be assertive. Like, he's knocking down these rocks. +1 range is on the way. That +1 range is on the way. And Dark is getting ready for the second wave, the second push. Like, in a way, Classic is kind of recovering. True, kind of. But, again, Classic can't really threaten his opponents. He can't really have any presence on the map. Here we go. Dark is pushing. Bailey's they roll in. Oh, they barely don't. As do barely wall off in the end. The files will be connecting. The Sentry! The High Templar! 2 High Templar go down. Big Picos with those biles. Yeah, Darky has maxed out. Decent storm on the ramp, but again, we only have 2 High Templar left. Yeah, Darky knows how vulnerable this army is. We dive on top of it. Shield Battery is going to be going down. Lings, they flood into the main base, into the natural as well. They distract Classic. And Dark, he's breaking the forward base. The mineral line is under fire. Looks like we're going to be forced back, but we killed 22 probes. And Dark, he can back off and remax once again. Again, the momentum that Dark has here is because of the earlier Link Flood. He may not have killed Classic at the time, but he did cripple him. And once again, the Links, they get in. Classic doing his best hero impression as probes are falling left and right. He's being pulled apart. Just doesn't have the supply to defend both locations at once, let alone his forward base. As we get into the middle line, GG gets called, and Dark will tie up the series 1-1. We're going to the ace match. GG. GG, well played. We're going all the way to game number 3. Whew. It all comes down to this final game. On what map? I'm not sure. What were the vetoes? Oh, okay. The final map is going to be Oceanborn. This is going to get wild. Oceanborn, another really good map for a Zerg player to go all in. We've already seen Dark go for a Queen Walk against Firefly on this very map earlier today. Is he tempted to do it again against Classic? Is he tempted? Does he give in to those temptations? Oh boy. Here we go. It's always a Ling round by through an open gate. I mean, to be fair, again, Dark, he was pulling apart the attention of Classic with the constant harass. With the pushes. And not just that, it's also, again, the fact that Classic, he had lost so much in the lead up to that second attack where he was just falling behind. Or he was just behind. And it was pulled apart, and again, here we go. Now we're getting into the final game. Into game 3. Here we go. Looks like we're just making sure that everyone is ready. Everyone is good to go. Again, all the casters have converged. I believe Enki is still covering the lower portion of the bracket, thankfully. Shout out to Enki. And I think all the other English casters have converged. So ourselves, Chicken Man, Dave Testa, Steadfast, I think all the English casters have come together to bear witness to this ace match. I'm here for it. So we are loading in. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Oceanborn, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the Red Zerg, representing Dragon Kai Z Gaming, tying up the series 1-1 in that last game. It is Dark. And spawning in the top left hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss, the blue Protoss player representing Twisted Minds, being forced into this ace match. It is Classic. Here we go. Okay, so When it comes to getting into game number 3 here, there's a lot to consider when it comes to how this series has played out. On the one hand, so far every game, Classic has gone for a Stargate opener into a Phoenix, and I believe he's going to be doing the same here in game 3. Whether it's a Phoenix or a Void Ray, a very similar outlook here from Classic. I imagine we're going to be going for it, and the follow-up is really where we're going to be deviating. Game 1, Classic went into Glaive Adepts. Game 2, Classic went into Charge, tried to go into a +1 Charge or Archon timing. Game 3, he still has other options. He can go into Blink Stalkers, he can go into Sky Toss, or he can go back into Glaive Adepts. I do think that going for the Phoenix first is just a really good way to play out a series, and it's usually what Classic relies on, just because it just keeps the opponent guessing. Meanwhile, Dark has been quite assertive so far. Game 1, it was a 2-base all-in. Game 2, we had a Ling Flood off of, I think it was 55 or 53 drones, around that. We did have a +1 melee Ling Flood out of Dark. Again, Dark clearly doesn't want to be the reactor. He doesn't want to be reacting to Classic. He wants to be in the driver's seat. I say to Classic. In general, like, Dark wants to be in the driver's seat, whether he's up against a player like Classic or Hero or Cure. Does want to dictate the pace of the game. Which is also why I love casting a lot of these players. Like players like Dark and Hero and Classic. They all want to be aggressive, they all want to be assertive, and they're kind of like fighting for control of the mic. They all want to lay down their beats. And there it is. Stargate opener out of our Protoss. So far, everything is looking as it should. Likewise, Dark across the map. Ooh, is forced to take the triangular third. This is actually pretty important. Pretty impactful here. Now, this forward third base is very exposed. Very vulnerable to something like Glaive Adepts. Glaive Adepts would just wreak havoc if we droned. Otherwise, this could also be a really good launch pad to spread creep across the map and to go for an all-in. So, it's a very interesting base to take. Once again, it is a Phoenix opener out of Classic, as to be expected. He's been in love with it. He's very fond of going for these Phoenix-based openers in PvZ. He's less concerned when it comes to dealing economic damage like an Oracle opener. He's more concerned about just hiding his tech. And we'll see what direction he takes us in. Phoenix is revealed, Overlord is going to be shut down. This should be leading into a third base. And then that second form of tech. Oh, actually, never mind. We're going for a very fast Twilight Council. Oh my god. This is different. This is a Twilight Council before third. So a very aggressive build here from Classic. This doesn't have to be Glaives. I'm really curious. So this could be Glaive Adepts, sure. Based on how early this is, this could also be Charge. I'm curious. I'm curious if we go for one or the other. Show us what she got. There it is. Glaives is on the way. We do take the third gas and the fourth gas. I was keeping my eye on the gases here at the natural to see if he would take them. Yes, we are investing. So Glaive Adepts are on the way here for Classic. As I mentioned before, based on the base location, it is something that we can abuse. Really fast Roach Run, we're going all in. As I was distracted by what Classic was doing, Dark is going all in. He is going for the Queen Walker across the map. We spoke about the temptation. We spoke about how Dark did this against Firefly and how it's so tempting to go for these Queen Walks on Oceanborn. And Dark, he's giving in and he has been scouted. Now, Classic, can we defend? He will have Glaive Adepts here back at home. Shield batteries are on the way. 4 of them. Oh boy. But because we're on Oceanborn, the rush distance by ground is very short. It is very short. Dark, he is arriving. The Queens, they still take a little bit of time to get across the map. The Oracle full of energy. We only have one Oracle, bear that in mind. Lings won't be the issue though, it's going to be the Roaches and the Ravagers. I do appreciate though that these shield batteries are spread out. We're going for the surround. Big stasis. Massive stasis on the Lings. A good start here for the Protoss. Oh, and Dark is droning. Ah, yeah, just like that. Classic defends. The shield batteries, they finished up just in time. This stasis was the real deal breaker. It was the real deal breaker here for Dark. Dark, he was getting ready to dive and to surround and to bile. He wanted to surround this army and bile it down, but he gets completely shut down, and now Dark is in a really rough position. Dark is droning as heavily as possible, backing off a late lair. Remember, this was a push, a hatch tech push. So the lair is still on the way. No upgrades, and now Classic can counterattack. I love that Classic isn't staying back at home. He isn't afraid of a counterattack. He's being very assertive. No fear. No fear as Adepts, they do continue to threaten those shades. Highness getting on top of the Ravagers. Oh. Clutch Transfuse, we're going to be able to hold on. Alright, he is holding. We haven't committed to a shade yet. Again, we have far too many Ravagers for that. But ideally, Classic was hoping to force out some more units. Whew, and Classic doesn't deal any damage. Dark, he's been able to recover somewhat. Classic is still ahead in the economy. Still up in probes. Oracle going to be threatening here this mineral line, getting an eye on the saturation, on the gases. And we have our follow-up tech here. It's going to be a second Robo and a Robotic Spay. Looks like Colossus production. So double Robo Colossus here from Classic. He's taking a fourth, and he's going to be taking a more defensive position here. The downside is that we are skipping Safety Immortals, which is a little bit concerning. Just based on how many Ravagers we have and how many Roaches we have. So Dark is going to be pushing on the right-hand side. He has been spotted. Classic getting in position. And thankfully, Dark, he isn't doubling down. Well, we do have a Nidus on the way, but we also have an Infestation Pit. Are we thinking Swarm Host? I mean, Dark is behind. And we have seen Swarm Host be very effective when it comes to gaining value and gaining efficiency over the course of a game. There it is, Swarm Host. Let's go. So basically, if you're curious, Dark, he is very much so willing to embrace Swarm Host if he's behind. Like, he knows that he has a worse economy, he's really struggling to recover. And because Swarm Hosts are energy, or they're not energy-based units, but they have a lot of free units, over time he can, of course, save his resources, spend them elsewhere, just based on Locust Waves. So this is a very good way to come back in a game. Here we go. Nidus Swarm is on the way. Swarm Hosts are moving out. This first Locust Wave is going to be very important, because so far Classic doesn't know. He's unaware. He's unaware of the Swarm Host. Nidus will finish, and we need to get on top of the production or the natural base. Locust Wave coming in. The blink! Oh, we shut down the Nidus. The Nova's going to be going off big connections as well on the Swarm Host, and this is brutal. And we're trying to evacuate. We have a backup Nidus. Locust Wave is spent, and the Nidus will not finish. Dark, he gets caught out. At the same time, though, he's pushing on the right-hand side. He may lose the Swarm Host, but he is taking down the fourth. And the Nexus will fall. Classic out of position. Committing a little bit too hard to this. I mean, he may have shut down the Swarm Host, but Dark still deals damage. Takes down the Nexus, takes down 7 probes. And Dark, he's done with the Swarm Host at this point. We're getting into Hive Tech, Hydras, soon to be Lurkers. Hydra, Lurker, Viper. That's the end goal for Dark. That's the ideal composition. Can he get there? Right now he's being as active as possible. His goal here as well is to keep Classic contained, keep him back at home. The Disruptor! First Disruptor goes down. Good target firing here from Dark. Classic caught out of position. Just caught overextending. Even here, Dark, he's more than happy to trade. We'll back off. Locust Wave coming in. How many Swarm Hosts do we have? We have not too many. 8 Swarm Hosts. We have our Colossi. The Locust Wave does get into the mineral line. Yeah, probes are going down. Oh my god, so many of them! It doesn't take too long at all. A couple of seconds and 20 probes go down. And suddenly Classic is in a world of hurt. He's all in. He's completely all in at this point. And we have potential. I mean, Dark doesn't have Lurkers yet. The Lurker Den is on the way, don't get me wrong. But it's not ready. We do catch some of these Roaches. In a head-to-head fight, I do have to favor Classic's army as more roaches get picked off. But again, Classic, we have to send it. Like, the longer this goes on, the better it is for Dark. Looks like Classic is waiting for +2. +2 still on the horizon. Reinforcements are on the way. And yeah, we gotta push. We have the War Prison to reinforce. Looking at the armies, we have 42 roaches. Dark is maxed out, but the soup does lie. A very inefficient army from Dark. He wants to get on top of the Colossus. From behind, the Swarm Host, the Locust Wave, we get a full surround. And it looks like we should be able to clean this up. Classic overextending. And one Colossus goes down. The second Colossus as well. The Swarm Hosts are doing what they can. GG gets called. And Dark will take the series 2-1, advancing on to the grand finals. GG. Whew. GG, well played. Dark will bounce back here. Had a really rough start. Remember, it all started with a failed all-in. Dark committed to a Queen Walk, a Ling Roach Ravager push. Didn't work. Didn't break and didn't really do enough damage. Dark was able to pivot away from that, was able to bounce back as well. The Swarm Hosts, they did their job. They were able to... They themselves didn't kill a base, but they created the opportunity that Dark needed to snipe the fourth. And from there, he was just bouncing back and forth between the bases and pulling Classic apart. Eventually forced the all-in, and Classic just did not have enough to commit to an all-in at that point. GG. Congratulations to Dark. My condolences to Classic, as he is going to be eliminated from the tournament. And we have to catch up on what's been going on in the brackets and what's been going on in the lower half. Ooh, GG. A big shout out to Ortinko. Thank you so much for the bits, for the 400 bits, 500 bits even. Thank you, do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hope you've been enjoying the content. Hope you've been enjoying the stream. Gracias, papi, gracias. Locust DPS is absurd. They do have very high, a very high attack rates. As we saw, it didn't take long at all to kill a mineral line. Yeah, that is the strength of the Swarm Host. Classic had an opportunity there to shut them down. If you remember, he was marauding out on the map. He was able to shut down the Nidus Worms. It was a really good moment. Unfortunately, we weren't able to split up our army. There was a lot that was a part of the marauding force from Classic that shouldn't have been there. He just was really not expecting a counterattack. If he was able to keep his Colossus and his disruptors on the right hand side, he would have been able to hold on to his fourth. But he just was not really expecting a second attack and a second army. He was just hyper fixated on shutting down the Swarm Host, hyper fixated on getting on top of that, and unfortunately just wasn't able to. Or, I mean, he was able to, but was taken advantage of. Was taken advantage of, and so with that, Dark will be making it to the grand finals, and we can quickly take a moment to look at the rest of the bracket.